Hey guys, I have one quick question for you. Do you think that the New Orleans Saints will make the playoffs in 2024? Now, I'm not asking are they going to win the division. I'm not asking are they going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not asking what they're going to be ranked. I just want to know, are they going to make the playoffs? If you think yes, I need you to hit the thumbs up icon and like the video. If you think they won't, feel free to get to the comment section and explain why. Because I think that the Saints are a lock to make the playoffs this year. So prove me wrong down in the comment section, or prove me right as well with the likes. So coming up in today's video, we're going to be discussing some New Orleans Saints trade targets. And I'm going to go through a list of about 5 guys. We have some honorable mention players as well. And I'm going to just make this preface right now. A lot of these are not realistic. A lot of these likely won't happen. And it's worth remembering a trade requires 2 teams. It takes 2 to tango here. So just because I want them and I'm making a video about them doesn't mean I think it's going to happen or it's 100% going to happen. So I'm just going to go ahead and have some fun with it. It's the offseason, so let's break it on down. The first offensive player that I want to discuss, or the first trade target I guess I want to discuss, is offensive tackle Jonah Williams, who signed with the Arizona Cardinals in free agency. Now, you guys might be sitting here scratching your head being like, what is this red sunburnt, bearded, husky dude saying? Well, what I'm basically saying here is there's not a lot of options at offensive tackle. Teams don't move on from their top offensive linemen. It's hard to trade for offensive linemen because a lot of them are off the trade market at this point. Now, Jonah Williams is a player that could bring some good to the New Orleans Saints. He was a first-round pick, number 11 overall, actually, by the Bengals just a handful of years ago, back in 2019. And he can play both tackle spots. He's played a lot at the left tackle position. He's played a lot at the right tackle position. But, again, he's had a 2-year, $30 million contract with the Arizona Cardinals. And, again, don't shoot the messenger here. I'm just trying to tell you I brought this name up for a reason. There are not many offensive tackles that are available on the trade block. A lot of the offensive tackles that were available in free agency were there for a good reason. Teams don't move on from great offensive linemen because it's so hard to come by them. And that is why I think the best case scenario, Trevor Penning just takes the lead. Trevor Penning just turns out to be a good left tackle. Doesn't have to be great. He doesn't have to be all pro. Just good. And then on top of that, you have Josiah Aziram, who you drafted with your last pick in the draft this year, who also played left tackle. And to be honest, he's a player who I think could add some value as well. And I do think that it would make some sense to bring in another offensive lineman because the Saints did waive Tommy Kramer. But Josiah Aziram, worth noting, he was part of the offensive line at Eastern Kentucky that ranked 3rd nationally and passing offense per game with 329.7 yards per game and 5th in 3rd down conversion percentage at .519 in 2022. So that's pretty interesting. This kid comes in being very productive as an offensive lineman, giving his team plenty of time to convert on 3rd down and to convert and make plays offensively. So if Trevor Penning can just take a leap and Josiah Aziram can be okay, I think that's the best case scenario. I don't think anything's going to happen in terms of a trade for offensive linemen. But you tell me, Saints fans, do you think that Penning will improve in year 3? Now, obviously, year 1, we barely even got to see him. Year 2, he got benched pretty quickly. But year 3, this is when the pressure's on, in my opinion. So just give me a yes or give me a no in the comments. I personally think we're going to see some improvement because it's really hard to be worse than what we've already seen. So I'm going to type my yeses, but I want to hear what your thoughts are in the comment section. So Trey Hendrickson, a very familiar face and a beautiful, beautiful man that should have never left the state of Louisiana. Shame on you, Mickey Loomis. Shame on you, Saints front office, for not keeping this absolute dog in the locker room. Now, Trey Hendrickson was a 3rd-round pick by the Saints in 2017. He has been so damn good in the NFL, and oh my goodness, I wish New Orleans still had him. He ranked 28th in sacks in 2023 the Saints, ranked 28th in sacks in 2023 with 34 sacks. However, if you add in Trey Hendrickson's 17.5 sacks, you see at the bottom of that note, the New Orleans Saints would have been number 6 in the total sack production last year. Let that sit for a second. If you just added this one player, you go from the 28th best, essentially the 4th worst sack production, to the 6th best. Like, that is insane. Now, on top of that, I think that there's a void to fill, if you will. I think that there is a spot for Trey Hendrickson, because here's the deal. Carl Granderson's great, but Trey Hendrickson's much better. Chase Young, really good. But again, Hendrickson, much, much better. Cam Jordan, really good. Hendrickson, much better. You see the theme where I'm going with? You see what I'm trying to put out here? I don't think that the Saints defensive line is in a bad situation. But I do think that it could get better. And I want more sack production. I'm a greedy son of a gun when it comes to getting sacks. And to be quite honest, I said it once and I'll say it again. Hendrickson should have never left the state of Louisiana. He should have never left the city of New Orleans. He should have never left the black and gold. This man should have never been given the opportunity to work for another franchise, to wear another jersey, to put on a different helmet. Trey Hendrickson should definitely try and come back to New Orleans. I am all for it. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's very realistic. And to be honest, I would be so surprised if it did. But if it did happen, I'm telling you right now, I'm going crazy and I'm losing my mind, and we're going to be going live and breaking it down and honestly having the biggest party that New Orleans may have ever seen on the internet. So here's the deal, though. I got to tell you really quick about Prize Picks, today's presenting sponsor, and then we'll get back to some more trade targets. But Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. It's not gambling, it's not sports betting, it's daily fantasy sports. So you pick 2 or more players, choose more or less based on their projected stats, and boom, you can make some money. So I wanted to cook up some new projections because I've talked about the same ones a couple times, and I'm a guy who, maybe I change my mind on some stuff. Maybe I want to do a couple different projections. So here's a projection that I cooked up in a little slate, if you will. Caleb Williams, over the course of the season, I have him having more than 3,400 and a half passing yards. Brock Bowers, I'm going with less than 700. I like Bowers as a player, but who in the hell is going to be throwing him the football? Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell? Yeah, I'm okay. We'll see how that goes. And Derrick Henry, 10.5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, if Gus Edwards can go crazy, you're telling me that the King can't? I love what Derrick Henry is capable of. I still think that he's a good player. Sure, he's a little bit slower, but that doesn't matter when you're within the 3-yard line. So I'm going with more than 10.5 rushing touchdowns this season. If you want to fade those picks, if you want to tail those picks, I don't really care what you do. Just make sure you do it with Prize Picks. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Plug in that promo code CLNS. You'll get a first-time deposit match up to $100. Shout out to Prize Picks for making today's shows possible. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. All of the information is in the comment section and description of the video. Now, Deebo Samuel is definitely a name that I think Saints fans should at least keep in the back of their heads. And I don't think it's a realistic trade, but I think if any of the trades that we're going to discuss today were to go down, it would likely be Deebo, and I'm not even very confident that it's to New Orleans. But the Saints could use a weapon like Deebo Samuel, and to be quite honest, I want somebody who's damn good in yards after the catch. The New Orleans Saints were not great when yards after the catch. They don't really have a yak guy, and that's why a lot of people were high on Malachi Corley in the second round, and a lot of people were high on Malik Washington later in the draft, who those are very yak-centric players where they're going to just get the ball and they're just going to make it happen on the ground. But you see the numbers on your screen. He is a multi-dimensional player. He is a really talented guy. The contract, though, is very, very expensive, and it's very, very concerning. However, as we all know, if there's any team that knows how to get themselves out of a financial pickle, it's the New Orleans Saints. Now, I want you to pick a trade candidate for me. Do you like the idea of going defense and bringing back Trey Hendrickson for a reunion? Or do you want to go boost that offense and give Derek Carr no reason to fail? Just type a DS for Deebo Samuel. So kicking it back to the defensive side of the ball, I should say. What about Jonathan Allen out of Washington for the Washington Commanders, I think that this is definitely a player who could be on the trade block, and I'm actually not the only person who thinks that. Jeremy Fowler, he even had a write-up about it, and here's what he said. The people I've talked to believe Washington will need to either rework his contract eventually or decide whether it will entertain trade interest, which has rebuffed in the past. Now, I do think that New Orleans needs to be a better team at stopping the run. I mean, we made guys like Tyson Bagent and Tommy DeVito look like just really, really good rushing. They made them look like Lamar. They looked like Lamar frickin' Jackson with how much they was running and how good that they were playing. And not necessarily throwing the ball, but on the ground. And I mean, it just feels like so many times it was team or quarterback drops back, pressure's coming in, moves up in the pocket, breaks away for a 15-yard run. I think Jonathan Allen would do a good job of stopping that. And the Commanders did actually draft Jerzon Johnny Newton out of Illinois in round 2, so maybe they're a little bit more comfortable with moving on from Allen as well. And the production for the player was really, really good. He can stop the run. He can stop the pass. He can pressure the quarterback. He is a player that I'm really, really high on and I would love to see in the black and gold. But I don't think there's any player that I want to see in the black and gold more than the guy you see on screen right now, and his name is Treylon Burks, the Arkansas legend. Now, I understand a lot of you guys are going to get over here and be like, Trace, shut your damn mouth. You're an idiot. You don't know ball. What the hell are you doing? This guy stinks. Well, maybe I agree with you. I think that he hasn't been that great, but I know a minute ago I said Deebo Samuel maybe feels like a possible one. I think Treylon Burks is actually the most realistic on this list. Burks does fit what the New Orleans Saints need. The Saints need a big-bodied ex-receiver, somebody who they can line up in the slot, somebody who can make contested catches, who can take up space over the middle and fill that Michael Thomas role, the void that is there currently. And Treylon Burks is that at 6'2", 225 pounds. Now, he's a first-round pick out of the Harvard of the Ozarks, Arkansas Razorbacks, probably the greatest college football team in all of history and the greatest college that's ever existed. You cannot, or if you disagree, argue with a brick wall. But he only played 11 games in the 2 seasons that he's been active. And it's also worth noting, it feels like they're trying to the Titans are trying to push him out and kind of, weed him out, if you will. They signed Tyler Boyd, which I wish the Saints would have done. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins last year. Last year. But on top of that, they also added other players in free agency, and they've been active in adding other talent and whatnot to the wide receiver room. But Treylon Burks, the production, even in his limited career, or in his limited sample size of his career, it's not been good. 2 touchdowns, but one of those was a receiving touchdown. One of those was recovering a fumble that Derrick Henry had going into the end zone. So, even that's a little bit of a misconstrued number. So the production, even for a first-round receiver taken in round 1, it's still not that good for a single season, let alone 2 seasons as a whole. But I do think that this is a player that was put in a bad situation. He was put in a team that new front office, new quarterback situation. They didn't really have a reliable path. They didn't really have a vision of where they were going. But, look at this kid. If you just think that he is a bad football player, I'm just going to challenge you and say, go look at any of the tape when he's healthy. Go look at any of the tape whenever he was at Arkansas. He changed games. He made the Arkansas Razorback football team a good football team. And he made that offense a good offense with KJ Jefferson. Look at this catch. You don't see it, but at one point the ball is up way the hell up here, and he catches it on his fingertips. Focus, brings it down, toe tap swag, brings it in for the touchdown to make the Ole Miss Dirty Rebels, have to hold that L for that Treylon Burks catch because it was absolutely sick. Shout out to that guy for being in the highlight reel. But again, I'm not saying that he's a great player and he's going to be a Michael Thomas guy. I'm saying, though, if you want somebody who's an ex-receiver, you probably only have to invest a 7th-round pick. Why the hell not? Why would you not try and add a cheap, very young player that fits the position of need that you are missing in the wide receiver group? So some honorable mentions that we should at least throw their names out. DK Metcalf, I don't think that he's a player the Saints could afford necessarily, but maybe they want to go and get a big body guy for all the same reason they want Treylon Burks. Maybe they want to go get DK Metcalf, but just a better version of that, more expensive version of it. Budda Baker, he's a good safety, but the production last year wasn't nearly as good as it was in the previous seasons, and I do think that the Saints should look to add a veteran safety, whether it's a Justin Simmons or a trade for a guy like a Budda Baker or something. I think a veteran safety presence would not hurt alongside Tyrann Mathieu. T. Higgins is still a wide receiver that I would love the Saints to go and grab. I think that he would be a good fit in New Orleans. And to be honest, I don't know if this Bengals will trade T. Higgins. It's just like I would like that to happen. Again, this is players that I want to possibly trade for. Courtland Sutton, another wide receiver. There's a pipeline between Denver and New Orleans, and they've already shipped off Jerry Jeudy, so what's to say they're not about to ship off Courtland Sutton? They drafted Troy Franklin in the draft this year as well, so maybe they're looking to get a little bit extra draft capital and get off some contracts. But I want you to shout them out for me. If you made it to the end of the video, congratulations. You have earned the title as a real one. So here's your dream draft target. I want you to get absolutely crazy. If your dream quarterback is Patrick Mahomes, if your dream wide receiver is Justin Jefferson, if you want, I don't even know. If you want a punter, if you want Thomas Morstead, to be our punter again, you can put him down. Have fun. Get crazy. Get weird. It's the offseason. This is a place where I'm not going to listen to everybody saying it's not realistic. You need to shut up. No, it's the offseason. We're allowed to have fun, and I'm inviting you to have some fun. But y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.